welcome to Whispers of Ink. I'm Machado de Assis, and now I will read one of my stories.
Let's start with the book Animal Game, which is part of my novels collection. Chapter 1. Camilla, sometimes called Camillino, by friends who like to soften names with affection, worked at one of the military arsenals in Rio de Janeiro. Probably the army one as a clerk. He earned 200 mil reais a month, after taxes and pension deductions. He was single, but one holiday season he visited a friend in Rocha, a quiet suburb, to spend Christmas night. There he met a gentle young woman in a simple blue dress and eyes that seemed to ask for something without ever saying a word. 3 months later, they were married. Neither of them had much. He had his job, and she had her hands and legs enough to manage their tiny home and help the old black woman who had raised her and followed her without pay. It was this woman, Germana, who made them rush into marriage. She never told them to marry, and in fact, she thought it might be better if her girl stayed with her aunt, a widow who could offer more freedom and no extra burdens. But no one asked her opinion. Still, one day Germana had said that if her girl got married, she would serve her for free. That sentence reached Camilo's ears, and from that moment, he decided to marry her 2 months later. If he had thought it through, maybe he wouldn't have rushed. Germana was old, and they were young, and so on. But the idea of having a free housekeeper stuck in his mind like a permanent line in the budget. Germana kept her word. Even a small person can still cook a pot of beans, she said. A year later, the couple had a baby boy, and the joy he brought made up for any future worries. The baby's mother, Joanina, didn't hire a wet nurse. She had plenty of milk, and she was strong, and besides, they couldn't afford one. Still, it's true that they didn't really think about it. Everything felt like joy, like hope. Camilo believed a promotion was coming. There was talk of a reform at the arsenal, and he was sure his time had come. Until then, a co-worker died, and Camilo went to his funeral. He almost smiled during the ceremony. When he got home, he couldn't hold back. He laughed out loud. He told Joanina everything, how the promotion would come soon, who would get it 2 men, one named Botelho, protected by General, and himself. But when the list came out, it included Botelho and someone else. Not Camilo. Camilo cried like he was breaking apart inside, punching the bed, the table, even his own chest. "Have some patience," Joanina whispered to him. "Patience. I've been stuck for 5 years." He stopped himself short. That word stuck something he had picked up from a soldier friend, and used often at work in the arsenal. Suddenly felt like cool water on a boiling day. It calmed him. Camilo liked how it sounded. He even repeated it to his closest friends. Later on, when talk of promotion came up again, Camilo went straight to the minister. "Your Honor," he said, "I've been stuck like this for over 5 years now." He stressed the last part, proud of how it came out. He thought it might impress the minister. But everyone had been saying the same thing lately: government workers, shopkeepers, judges, factory owners, you name it. No promotion came. Camilo gave up and went back to his usual life. By this time, he already had some debts. He started borrowing against his salary and took on small side jobs secretly. They were young, and they loved each other, so even the hard times felt like a storm before a sky that would always be blue. Still, one week Camilo was unusually happy. Let me explain. Listen carefully. Future readers, hear this. Camilo played Jogo do Bicho for the very first time. Playing Jogo do Bicho isn't like saying kill the beast, a soft way of saying you're tired or hungry. No. In this game, you pick a number that stands for an animal. If your number matches the last 2 digits of the big lottery prize, then everyone who bet on that number wins. Everyone who borrowed money from someone else to play, though, ends up losing. It all starts with tiny bets, like a few coins, and some say it can grow into thousands. But let's focus on Camilo. For the first time ever, he bet on the monkey. He put in 5 coins and won many times more than had expected. At first, he couldn't believe it. But soon he had to believe it, because the money was real. He saw it. He touched it. He took it home. Of course, he went back to the monkey twice, 3 times, 4 times. But the monkey, that clever creature halfway between man and beast, never smiled on him again. Camilo tried his luck with other animals, but just like before, fortune didn't smile on him. All his winnings went straight back into the bichero's drawer. He thought maybe it was best to take a break for a while. But let's face it, there's no such thing as eternal rest, not even in the grave. One day, someone always comes along, like an archaeologist digging through bones and trying to guess their age. Camilo had faith. Faith can move mountains. He bet on the cat, then the dog, then the ostrich. Since he hadn't played those before, maybe this time would be different. But it wasn't. Luck treated all 3 the same way. It gave him nothing. He didn't want to follow the tips in the newspapers, like some of his friends did. Camilo couldn't understand how a few people writing news could possibly know the winning numbers. Once, just to prove a point, he gave in and followed one of their suggestions. He bet on the Catan one. So, me? His friends asked. You can't lose every time, he said. But you win more if you never give up, one replied. That's the secret, never quit. Still, Camilo went back to doing things his way. At most, he would sometimes follow a strange hunch, something that felt like a message from above. Like when a street kid said, "Mommy, why don't you bet on the snake today?" Camilo heard that and thought, why not? He bet on the snake and lost. But losing didn't break him. He would explain it to himself with the most clever reasoning, and every explanation only made his faith stronger. Instead of a promotion at work, he got a raise about 60,000 rei every month. That was enough to make him feel lucky again. He decided to baptize his son and chose a godfather no one expected. The very man who sold him the animal numbers. The man who ran the Jogo do Bicho. They weren't related, not even close. In fact, the man was a bachelor with no family of his own. The invitation surprised him so much he almost laughed. But he saw how serious Camilo was and realized this was a real honor. So he accepted happily. "This isn't one of those fancy parties, right?" he asked. "Fancy? No way. It's very simple. No car either." "No car." "What for?" "It's just down the street." Then, ill walk. Camilo wanted the baptism to be a big event, and he had his heart set on arriving by carriage. But there was something else. He hoped the godfather would pay for it. If the godfather didn't cover the cost, then no one would. So the baptism went ahead, and the godfather gave the baby a small gift. With a smile, he even joked that he'd give Camilo a prize if he won the lottery. That joke wasn't just a joke. Camilo believed the lottery dealer had a secret touch of luck, and he wanted to stay close, not just as a friend, but in the game too. He didn't play the lottery right away, though. He didn't want to push his luck, or seem too eager. Still, he remembered his promise. One day, with a smile on his face, he reminded his friend, "Hey, compadre, when you play the lottery, let me know." "Lottery?" the dealer asked, smiling. "You still remember that?" Camilo nodded. The man laughed out loud. "No, compadre, I can't read minds. That was just a joke. I wish I could give you a prize, but it's not up to me. The lottery pays out. It doesn't happen often, but it does." "Then why haven't I won yet?" Camilo asked. "I don't know," the man said. "I can't tell you what numbers to play, but I think, compadre, maybe you don't stick with the same animal long enough. You switch too much. That's why you don't win." "Really? How many times have I won?" "I can't say off the top of my head, but I write everything down in my notebook." "Then check it. You'll see that your problem is not staying with one animal long enough. Like that black guy who kept playing the butterfly for 3 months. He won today and took home a big pile of cash." Camilo did keep track of every bet, writing down how much he spent and how much he won. But he never added the numbers to see how much he was losing. He didn't want to face the truth. Even though he was organized, he chose to look away. He didn't want to see how deep the hole had become. Still, what his friend said made sense. Maybe his restlessness, his lack of patience, and his habit of switching animals were the real reasons he never won anything. When he got home, he found his wife juggling between the kitchen and her sewing. Germana had fallen ill, and she was preparing dinner while finishing a dress for a customer. She sewed for clients to help cover household expenses and buy a few clothes for herself. Her husband didn't hide his discomfort at the sight. He went to check on the enslaved woman and found her already recovering from the fever, thanks to the quinine his wife had at home and gave her on her own hunch. The enslaved woman added with a smile, "Na Joanina's hunches are good ones." He ate quietly, feeling down because he saw how overworked his wife was. But her cheerfulness, despite everything, lifted his spirits too. After coffee, he opened the notebook he kept locked in the drawer and started his calculations. He added up his bets and results: so many on the snake, so many on the rooster, the dog, and others, a whole imaginary zoo, but so inconsistent that it was easy to make a mistake. At first, he avoided adding up his expenses and earnings, afraid of a painful result, and closed the notebook. But in the end, he couldn't resist. He added slowly and carefully, not wanting to make a mistake. He had spent 707,000 rei and earned only 84,000 reis, a loss of 623,000 rei. He was stunned. That's not possible. He counted again, even slower, and found a difference of 5,000 rei less than before. Hope flickered for a moment, So he added up his expenses once more and confirmed the original loss of 623,000 rei. He locked the notebook back in the drawer. Joaninha, who had seen him cheerful at dinner, noticed the change and asked what was wrong. Nothing. You're hiding something. It's something you remembered. No, it's nothing. When she kept pressing him, he made up a small argument with his supervisor. Nothing serious. But you were happy earlier. Exactly why it's not important. Now I remember. And I was thinking about it, but it's really nothing. Let's play cards. The game of animals was their main attraction, the opera, the Alvador Street, Petropolis, Tijuca, everything that could mean fun, a walk, or rest. The wife's happiness returned to what it had been before. As for the husband, even though he didn't become as cheerful as usual, he did find some pleasure and a lot of hope in the numbers from the lottery cards. He played the game carefully, calculating his moves based on the first card drawn, then the second, then the third. He waited for the last one, tried different combinations, checked which animals matched them, and saw many of them, but especially the monkey and the snake. He decided to stick with those two. My plan is set, he thought the next day. It'll go up to 700,000 rei. If I don't win a good amount to keep me going, I won't play anymore. He chose the snake because of its cleverness and walked to his compadre's house. He told him he had followed his advice and was now really believing in the snake. The snake is a good choice, said the compadre. Camilo played only on the snake for a whole week and won nothing. On the seventh day, he decided to focus his thoughts and pick a specific kind of snake. He chose the coral snake, but he lost. The next day he tried the rattlesnake, and lost again. Then he tried the suruku, the boa, the jararaca, but none of these different snakes brought him any luck. They all share the same sad fortune. He changed his strategy. He might have changed it without reason, even though he had promised himself not to. But what really made him change was seeing a carriage almost kill a poor boy. People ran over. The police came. The boy was taken to a pharmacy, and the driver was taken to the police station. Camilo only noticed the number on the carriage, whose last digits matched the ram. He decided to play the ram. But the ram was no luckier than the snake. Still, Camilo liked this idea of picking one animal and sticking with it until it gave him nothing but bad results. He would follow whatever numbers came his way, no matter what. Camilo walked down the street with his head down, counting each step 40, 60, 80. Then, suddenly, he looked up. His eyes landed on the first house to his right. He checked the number and knew exactly which lottery number to play next. He had tried every method he could think of. Numbers written on paper and pulled from his hat, even using the serial number from a rare government bond. He kept changing his routine, mixing old tricks with new ones, but nothing worked. His frustration grew with every failed attempt. One day he decided to stick with the lion. His friend, the lottery operator, was relieved. Finally, the man said, crossing himself, "I'm glad to see you ready to make your move." The lion has been hiding, but that means it's close. It could win big any day now. Hiding? Camilo asked. You mean it's about to show up? Exactly, the friend replied. It's not a bad sign at all. For people like us, who believe and know how numbers work, this is clear as day. Camilo raised his bet even more. He was almost at 700 mil rei, If the lion didn't win this time, he would quit for good. At home, his young wife kept the house cheerful, even though life had become hard. Debts piled up. Loans came more often. Some days, they barely had enough to eat. But she never complained. She stayed patient, hopeful. Camilo told himself that once he reached 700, he would stop. No more bets. But the lion refused to appear. He thought about switching to another animal, but his friend begged him not to give up. "Don't lose faith now," the man said. "You're so close. Just a little longer." Camilo believed him. "Today," he told his wife, "today I breathe again." He held up the last note. Around 2 o'clock, while copying a serious government document at work, Camilo's mind kept drifting. He kept checking numbers, hoping for a sign, but luck seemed far away. The document had numbers too, but he kept making mistakes. His thoughts were a mess. The lottery numbers kept pushing their way into his head, pushing out the ones he was supposed to copy. It was easy to mix them up. But his own numbers kept coming back, again and again, no matter how hard he tried to focus. Camilo couldn't even focus on his work anymore. He kept writing lion instead of copying the exact number of tons of gunpowder from the document in front of him. His mind was gone, lost in thoughts about the lottery. Then suddenly, a clerk walked into the room, came up to him, and whispered in his ear. The lion had won. Camilo dropped his pen. Ink spilled across the nearly finished copy. If this had happened at any other time, he might have smashed the paper and snapped the pen in two. But this wasn't just any moment, this was it. The lion had won. Still, doubt crept in like a shadow. "Who told you the lion won?" Camilo asked quietly. "The guy who sold me the ticket at the snake game." "So it was the snake that won?" "No, sir. He got confused and came to tell me the lion had won, thinking I had played on the lion, but I played on the snake." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely sure." Camilo almost jumped out of his seat to run out, but the ruined paper in front of him seemed to beg him to stay. He went to his boss, told him what had happened, and asked if he could finish the copy the next day had come earlier, or take the original home. "What are you talking about? The copy must be ready today." "But it's almost 3 o'clock. It'll extend the workday." Camilo felt like extending his boss time all the way to the ocean, if he could use the verb that way. He returned to his desk, grabbed a new sheet of paper, and started writing his resignation letter. The lion had won. He could quit this hell right now. All of this happened in just a few seconds, maybe a minute and a half. With no other choice, he began copying the document again. Before 4 o'clock it was done. His handwriting was shaky, uneven, full of anger, then sadness, and slowly, joy. The lion whispered in his ear, softening its tone, "I won! I won!" When Camilo finally arrived at his friend's place, the man greeted him with open arms. "Come here, my friend. Give me a hug. Finally, luck is on your side." "How much did I win?" 105,000 re. Camilo held himself together and held on to the 105,000 re. Only when he was already outside did he realize he hadn't thanked his friend. He stopped, hesitated for a moment, and then kept walking. Camilo had just won 105,000 Ray. He couldn't wait to tell his wife, but how? Should he just walk in and say it? No, this moment needed something more. He thought, this is a day to celebrate. Not just any day, a turning point. He felt like thanking the heavens for this blessing. Maybe a better meal that night. As he walked, he spotted a bakery nearby. He stepped inside, looking around, not sure what to pick. The baker noticed Camilo's hesitation and offered help. Sensing his confusion between choosing a snack or dessert, the baker suggested both. He started with a large pastry, a rich, golden pastry that looked too good to be true, as if it was made just for this moment. Then came the dessert, a big, soft pudding. On top, written in white icing, were the words, "Long live hope." Camilo was so happy he couldn't stop smiling. The baker, seeing his joy, insisted he try some wine, maybe 1 or 2 bottles. Camilo agreed to 2. This feast deserves port wine. "I'll have it all sent to your home," the baker said. "I'll send a boy to deliver it." Camilo gave the address and told the boy exactly what to do. "Don't knock on the door," he said. "Just wait outside. I might not be home yet. If I am, I'll come to the window." Camilo paid 16,000 reis and left, full of excitement. He was so caught up in the surprise for his wife that he completely forgot to buy something for Joanina, his sister-in-law. It wasn't until he was on the tram that the thought hit him. He got off immediately and walked back, looking for a small gift, maybe a piece of gold jewelry, a brooch with a precious stone. He found a brooch that fit perfectly. Surprisingly, it was modestly priced, only 50,000 Ray. He bought it without hesitation and hurried home. When he arrived, the boy was already there, clearly upset and tired from waiting. Camilo took the packages and offered the boy a tip. "No, sir," the boy said. "My boss won't let me take it." Camilo smiled. "Then don't tell your boss. Take these 10 coins, they'll buy you something sweet. Go ahead, treat yourself." The truth is, when he told the boy the animal that hadn't won, instead of the lion that actually had, it wasn't a plan or an act of cruelty. It was probably just a mistake, a confusion in his head. The boy took the 10 coins, walked into his house with his little packages and his heart in his hands, and 38 mil Ray in his pocket.
Thank you for listening so far. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like our channel and click the bell to be notified whenever a new book is read. Have you heard of Machado de Assis? Machado de Assis, born in Rio de Janeiro in 1839, is considered one of the greatest writers in Brazilian literature and a master of psychological realism. He was a novelist, poet, playwright, and short story writer whose works explore the complexities of human behavior with irony, subtlety, and deep introspection. Among his most famous novels are Dom Casmurro, which questions truth and memory, and the posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas, a satirical narrative told by a deceased man. Machado's literature often reflects the contradictions of Brazilian society, addressing issues like race, class, power, and identity in a sophisticated yet accessible style. Despite being born into poverty and facing racial prejudice, Machado de Assis rose to become the president of the Brazilian Academy of Letters and a symbol of literary excellence. His sharp wit and profound observations about society and the human soul make his works timeless and universally relevant. Today, he is recognized not only as a Brazilian icon, but also as a world-class author whose legacy continues to influence generations of writers and thinkers. Machado de Assis shows us that literature can be both elegant and critical, intimate and universal, humorous and profound. His stories remain as powerful and thought-provoking today as they were more than a century ago. Machado is a treasure of world literature, and through his voice, we discover the infinite layers of the human experience.